I want to welcome everybody to our first podcast. And today we are going to be talking about why missions are important. And I have our pastor, senior pastor Mike Nelson, with us. And it is good to
It's good
have
to
you
be here,
here.
man.
So, Pastor Mike, I have a question for you. Why is missions are so important?
Well, I think that if you look back even to even the beginning with Jesus, when he was developing the disciples, it was all based on missions. If we take the Acts 1:8 mentality that when Jesus told us to go into Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the othermost parts of the earth, I don't see how as a church we can't do missions. It's part of our commission that God give us in the very beginning.
Yeah, but today we see that there's so many churches that they're not really into supporting that to go out and to different countries and do mission work.
And it kind of shocks me that that's the case, because if you look at, especially in America, that so many different nationalities and races that exist here, a lot of it comes from missions. I mean, you got to figure this country was founded on religious freedom, but even in our area, which we know the Slavic culture in particular is very strong here. If you looked at some of the churches in Spartanburg from 20 years ago, had a strong presence all in that part of the country or that part of the world, actually doing mission work, and which I think is which led to a lot of people being here now.
Can you share a little bit about Breakthrough Nation? How you guys started the missions? I know you guys are really big into missions and outreaches locally here. Can you share a little bit?
Well, as our church began, we began more, started out being domestic, more that we were doing inner city outreach, inner city mission. I actually started with kids on the street right here, a few blocks down from where we're at, and because I didn't want to go after people that were already saved, and so many churches are full of people that are already saved. They're saved people, and we forget the church is not just inside those four walls; it's outside the four walls, and so we have a tendency. Especially in the South, in this part of the United States, especially, that we ship people from aquarium to aquarium, but we really don't grow as far as numbers because we don't go after those that are not saved.
Yeah, because I personally see that as well. There's so many churches, but not a lot of people. It's kind of like seems like people go and just say after saved people to grow a big church. But Jesus has showed us a perfect example, because he was going city to city and he was preaching to those people that are broken. And I truly see that the churches are lacking that today. And just when the Lord, touched my heart and he transformed my life, that's something that he really opened up to me, is to go and reach those people that are broken, those people that are struggling on the streets, because who else is going to help them?
And the problem is too sometimes with that, Alex, is that a lot of churches think, well, we got too many people here that need help. Why should we go across the world to help somebody we don't know and we have needs here? The Bible didn't say that. It didn't say just go to Jerusalem. It said go to Judea, Samaria, and other most parts of the earth. So there's a big need. And if you look at the 1040 window of the world, which is kind of the most unchurched or people in that area that still haven't heard the gospel of Jesus Christ, it's still real. And we know that the Lord's not coming back till they're reached. And so there's so many stories that I could tell of why we need to be on the mission field. But some of us today, we're experiencing it because God is moving, not just in here, he's moving everywhere. And just like for you, I think you started in Mexico doing missions, and then eventually you moved into Uruguay. I mean, what gave you that passion to get there?
Well, for me, it was I started in Mexico. I lived in Mexico for three to 4 months, and I truly
You kind of look Hispanic.
I know, but I'm Russian. I always said that the Lord has had a favor upon me, and that's I'm dark. So when I go to Latino countries, they'll receive me that I'm Latino. But no, when God saved my life, I went to Mexico as a missionary there. So I served for a few months there, and for me, I just seeing that there's people that you can reach to. There's people that are broken, and then a few years later, God just gave me this opportunity to go to Uruguay, And when I came there, I was taking a 3-day fast before I went there, and I was asking God, what do you want us to do there? Why Uruguay? Why this little city out of big country? We're going to this little town. And the Lord spoke to me to establish a church there, a church that is biblically established, that is on the Word of God.
Now, how did y'all go about that? I mean, did y'all just have a team go in the beginning, or
So there was somebody that did missions, and they invited us over. And the person that was overseeing there, he did not want to do it anymore, so he wanted to pass it on to somebody, and they reached out to me to take over. So when we came there was nothing because his heart was not there. There's a lot of people that call them missions, but they don't actually go there and spend time on the missions.
Yeah.
So when we got there, there was nothing pretty much. All there is a house, a mission house, and nobody else is there. So when we took over, it was interesting that I was walking around the city to see what is the need for the people. Because for me personally, as a missionary, is when I go somewhere is to see what is the need in that country or in that city.
and it's the same way here in the United States, that a lot of pastors don't know the demographics of their own city. What I mean by that is being a former director of church planning and being involved in church planning. My biggest thing as a director was to go in and do the demographic studies to say, okay, what's here, what's the need, what's the income, what's the education level, how many churches do we have, what's the religious background of these people. And it's sad because if a pastor doesn't know the demographics of his own city, how is he effective?
Yeah.
And so that's a great thing that you did that.
Yeah, it's true. And so when we went there, and I started walking around the city and just talking to people, and I've seen so many people that were hurt by the church. There was somehow something happened in their life that they've been hurt by the church, and the Lord just started opening up to me. Like, this is why He wants a place for those people that are broken, that are hurt, to come and receive the freedom from any addiction, any problems, any situations in their life. And from that day, I remember that we went back and we had a couple of missionaries that stayed there. And then we were supposed to go back there, and COVID hit. That's right before COVID.
Yeah, that
and we were
everything.
Yeah, and we were in Miami. Got our tickets already. We're sending a team there to actually live there and to start the ministry. And we had a translator, Joseph, that he was in Honduras. I met him there, and he flew there. And interesting, the COVID came and it shut down the country. And we were at the airport about to fly there. And poor Joseph, he's a young guy, but he got stuck there for over 2 years because he couldn't get out.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
So, and
that's a long layover.
yeah, and he was supposed to come there for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So he got stuck there, but it was, we look at it, it was for a good purpose.
But you made the point though. You and it's the same way as Jesus' method. Jesus looked for those that were hurting. He looked for those that were looking for hope. Even in church, even though people have been hurt in church, but the fact is, there's hurting people everywhere. For me, the global perspective came from my military background, being in the Marine Corps and being in 27 different countries. Before that, I mean, I had been in 3 states before I graduated high school, before I went to college. And so being overseas, I began to realize that the world is a lot bigger than just the United States. It's a lot bigger than just here. There's people that need Jesus all over the place, yeah. And it's not just inside of. And so then years later, I heard a pastor by the name of Dan Betzer. I think he's a Assembly of God pastor, and he began to speak on missions. And he says, "I don't understand how anyone thinks they can be blessed and not give into missions." And I just, it was a brief thing. I can't even believe I still remember his name, but he spoke so strongly about missions that I was very strong in domestic missions. And it wasn't until 2005 range that I began to go to the Dominican Republic. Then later on went into Nigeria. And when I went to Nigeria, my mind was really blown. First, that was the first hard country I'd been in that I didn't have a weapon with me. And then they were coming on the bus with AK-47s. I was ready to attack. I wasn't thinking about preaching. But then I went to a church there called Canaan Land by a pastor by the name of Bishop David Oyedepo. They had a small service of 350,000 people.
Yeah, I heard of that one.
They had 350,000 people. The sanctuary set 85 to 100,000. And just seeing the passion that they had. And I'm like, man, you know what? And be honest, I learned things here from being there. He runs 350 to 400 buses every morning at 6 o'clock. picking up people, bringing them to church. So we came back and started running bus ministries. We started doing different things because we took what they were doing and brought it here. So if you look at the church, as far as you, and I'm going to ask you this, is how do you see the need? How many churches do you really think have a mission mentality of the world? I mean, you've been in missions for a long time. You've been in overseas missions longer than I
See,
have.
a lot of churches, they talk about it, but they don't actually do it.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing that I've seen. So many people talk about it. Yeah, let's do missions, let's do this. But when it comes to it, nobody wants to do it. I remember when I was going to Mexico and I was in Matamoros, it's a dangerous place. And I had a person came to me and said, Alex.
Now, is that the place where the drug cartel gave you
Yeah.
permission to come in?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to tell that story, man.
That's a crazy story there.
They had to put a sign on there, and
Yeah, we had to put a sign on a van if we enter into Mexico of the mission. That way, when we drive and the cartels see the mission on the sticker on the car, they would not touch us. But if we have no sticker, they can have a full authority to do whatever they want to take the cars or whatever it is. So God just opened the doors, for us to serve there. And going back to the question, you said, why do churches here do I see? And yes, I do see a lot of churches that they're not really into missions. It kind of seems like they're focusing on just building a kingdom, just in the church, and that's it. Just build their, to have a mega church, to have but who, if...
Well, a lot of reasons for that is churches have become more of a consumer-driven place. It's not about what I can contribute. It's not how I can serve. It's about how I can consume. In other words, speaking as a pastor who's done it for 20 plus years, it's kind of like coming on Sunday morning, like, bless me if you can, Pastor. Preach something that's going to keep me awake instead of, I came here this morning, how can I serve somebody?
Yeah.
How can I be a servant? And I think a lot of that too is finding out what you're gifted in and what your passion is. And, I think that's why a lot of people really need to go on a mission trip just to see. This might be something you never thought you would like to do, and all of a sudden it becomes the greatest passion, almost like the machine gun preacher.
Yeah, it's. I have a friend that always goes on the missionary trips with me. It's interesting. He reached out to me and he said, man, I want to go on a mission trip with you. But he's like, I'm not ready. He's like, I still struggle with certain things. I'm not ready to go. And I told him, I was like, listen, forget about everything that you're struggling. Let's just go with me. Let's just see what's mission's all about. So he went with me. And I remember when it was time to pray for people, I was like, start going and pray for people. And then God just started manifesting through him. Like, we've seen healings through him. And he just became so happy. He's just like, wow, God can use me. Even though in those certain situations that he was battling with now, and then we sit down with him, and I was like, listen, God gave you this, knowledge about computers. I was like, why don't you churn this knowledge and doing like gaming and other things? Why don't you churn this knowledge through media? You can reach thousands and millions of people. So I was like, why don't you switch that and just start ministering to people through media? And I was just interested to see how God just, in that one mission, transformed his whole life. Now he goes with me every single time.
Yeah, and it's almost amazing because most of the time when people go on a mission trip, they think they're going to be a help to somebody over there, and it ends up being more of a testimony to your own self than it is for the people you actually were trying to reach. But, it all comes back down to, are we seeing souls saved?
Yes.
And so the reason we do missions is that we want to see souls saved. And when you look at the church, yeah, you might not be able to go, but when you sow into missions, when you sow in money and your time into missions, I believe that when people are getting saved, that comes back to you.
Yeah.
We know according to Revelations that there's a book of works, there's the book of life. We know we all want to be in the book of life. But I hope that there's something in that book of works that says, hey, he just didn't come here and have faith. He had actually put some feet to his faith, and he actually has some works behind it. And so I think that's the thing that kills me most of the time with church people is that they don't understand they need to serve. They don't understand the need to give back, not just be a consumer, but also, too, to find what you're gifted in and find, I've said this many, many years, gifts are not determined, destinies are not determined, they're discovered.
Yep.
So a lot of times you'll work in a secondary gift and never really discover who you are. And so the moment you get involved with something, it's just for you. You fell in love with missions, and same way with me. I mean, I started out preaching to kids on the street. I'm serious, like a few blocks down the road from right now where we're sitting, and I learned how to preach dealing with kids, and just found a new passion. Even though I was raised in church, I didn't have the passion until I saw a need, and seeing a need gives you that passion.
Yeah. And I know for me personally as well as a lot of young people, they come and they ask me a question. Well, we want to see the movement of God. And I told them, I was like, if you truly want to see the movement, go on the street. Go out to the streets where whatever you're at the city, where you live at, just go on the street and start preaching to those people. And then God will start using you, and you will see miracles and wonders that God will use you. Like you were talking about kids, this is what started, and I know that your church grew a lot just because of kids.
Oh yeah, I was passing out water bottles, and it had a little sticker that said, "Let all those who are thirsty drink." And man, I was going out there, and some people thought I was Jehovah's Witness. They ran me off. Some people wouldn't receive it because they thought it was something wrong with it. And then finally, it was 4 or 5 little boys that came in and said, "Hey man, we'll help you." And they jumped in the back of my pickup truck. And they gave me access. They by serving with those kids, they got me access into homes, got me access into families, and all of a sudden, ministry began to happen
Through kids.
And it was like we set
Nothing
out,
special. Nobody ordained.
Nothing special. Nobody said, "Here's a building, go preach a sermon." No, we just passing out water bottles, and then all of a sudden, things begin to grow. And so, when you find a passion, when you find something. And I think that's what really bothers me, again, as I was saying with church, sometimes you just got to get busy doing something.
Yeah.
Everybody walks up, man, what's my call? What's my call? I don't know what your call is. I don't know what your gift is. But eventually when you start working, you walk into it. And then all of a sudden, man, I have a passion for this.
Yeah.
And so now, for some people watching this podcast, we have the mission, the church in Uruguay. We've got the church now in Brazil, and the church in Brazil is booming.
Yeah,
it's amazing to watch all the Instagram posts and videos he's putting out.
Yeah, God has been really. We see when we started Uruguay, like I said, it was right before COVID. It was really hard. Uruguay is one of the hardest countries to serve in, and I met up with one of the Assembly of God bishops, one of the main guys, and he actually said, "Alex, we thank you. We appreciate that. You're here for 3 years now, and you never give up on our people." The reason he said why is because there are so many missionaries that came there, and like in Africa and other little countries, there's like you do a service, thousands of people gather, and people are getting hyped up, and they're like, "Man, I want to go there again."
Yeah, it's easy to do that in Nigeria and Dominican Republic.
Yeah, so there we come. There's like 5, 6 people show up, and you're like, and me personally, I was asking God, is like, God, why? If you said that you want us to be there, and I had a dream about having a crusade in Uruguay. And last year we had our first crusade. It was the same field where we had our crusade. I had a dream about it before I even got there. And it was interesting that it was the first time in the history that God opened the doors in that small little town to do a Christian crusade. And it was just like, we saw like we had a little gifts that we were giving out, food and stuff like that. So we give out 1,400 to 1,300 raffle tickets. And so we saw how people just start gathering. And I'm actually going to be flying on Thursday back to Brazil and Uruguay. We're doing a second crusade. And we believe that this is the time of revival that is going to happen in that little city.
So you started in Uruguay, and then, I know the church in Brazil is 8 hours drive away. How did we end up there?
So Brazil was interesting. So when we started Uruguay, we had a guy that came, and his name is Pablo. He's a pastor in Brazil church. He was with us in Uruguay, and his dad passed away in Brazil. So he moved back to help his mom. And then he's like, "Alex, we need to start something here." But when he invited me, it wasn't, I always say, if I do something, go somewhere, I wanted to make sure that it's from the Lord. I don't want to go because let's do something big. I want it to be from the Lord so we can actually see how God is working in those cities. So he invited me for probably like a year and a half. And then when we did the crusade, he came out and we sat down, we talked, and just the Lord just put on my heart just the fire. It is time. So beginning of this year, we went there and we launched the church. and we see how the people in that church, they're so hungry for the Lord. They're so hungry for missions, and just the passion that they have for people that are struggling.
Now, how many did you have on that first team when y'all went to Brazil?
We had like 7 or 8 people.
7, 8 people?
Yeah. So it wasn't a big team, but we did a lot that time when we got there. But they had, when we got there, he got a team of people, probably like around 7 or 8 people as well. But from the 7 or 8 people, they're into 70 to 100 people now.
Yeah.
It's been 6-7 months.
Yeah.
So we see that when the Lord sends you somewhere, we see that God is going to start doing His work.
And it's amazing how similar too, because the pastor and our pastor in Brazil, he did the same thing. Went on the street, started feeding people, started meeting needs.
Yeah.
And so the same concept begins to take place. That meeting needs and reaching out to the people. And it's the same way now in Dominican Republic. We've been down in Dominican Republic for many, many years. Been sending teams down there, and it's a great entry level to missions.
Yeah.
Just because it's not, even though it's a third world country, it's not that dangerous. And so we built the house there that was meant to be an orphanage, but and it has 4 apartments in it on a 20-acre mango farm. And the problem happened is that during COVID, they won't let us have orphans anymore. So that's kind of a rule there in the country. And so we kind of revamped the ministry and began to change it. So we're fixing to build a ball field. We took you down.
Yeah, I was just got back from
and
there.
And so now in January, we're going to build a baseball field. It's kind of different because to me, I always look, it's not about the method. It's the motivation behind it. It's a little different using sports to reach people, but really it's not that different to me.
I see there's so many people that are, why sports? How are you going to reach through sports to people? So that's a big question.
It's not understanding the culture.
Yeah.
That's one of the things where you don't understand the culture. Every little boy in Dominican plays baseball. So they practice twice a day, and they think that's the only way off the island. And so what we're doing is we're using the baseball field, and I think this works in any church, whether it's in the United States or whether it's there, is what's your niche? What are you trying to do? What makes your church different? What makes somebody drive past 10 churches and pull in your parking lot? What is your mission? What's your vision? And so for there, what we're doing is we're bringing the boys in, and we have 4 different instructors in 4 different communities that's being planned out, and we teach them discipleship, leadership, and entrepreneurship. So we teach them 3 things, just like anything else, to grow them. It's hard to change adults sometimes, but children are always ready to receive.
But when the way I'll see it is, as soon as we're gonna start working with the kids, the parents are coming along.
Yeah.
So it's not just the kids. It's gonna be bigger than just the kids.
And I think it's a different mentality too, because there we give out rice and beans. We can pack a service out in a matter of minutes, just saying, "Hey, we're giving out rice and beans," and it's going to cost a couple $100 just to feed a whole community. And so now you're feeding the parents and you're taking care of the kids. And far as being a dad of 5, I can tell you, when you start ministering to my kids, you're ministering to me.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the concept. So as far as missions is in general, the best thing is for churches to be involved and not just, if your church don't have a mission team, sow into somewhere. Even as Breakthrough now, we sow into 4 or 5 different ministries outside of our church because we believe in giving. And we believe that where we reap, we're going to sow. And for as churches, we don't give to always get money. As far as the church, we give and we spend money. Our marketing concept does not get money. It's to get people.
Yeah. I mean, that's the main goal.
And that's what we're trying to do. So when you're giving money, you're really reaching people.
Yeah.
And I'd rather spend money on people than I would anything because that's the greatest commodity of worth. Money will pass away.
Yeah.
We're all going to pass away, but the fact is that person's life for eternity is going to be impacted.
Yeah, something that for me personally, and I see the way we do it in Breakthrough Nation, is we don't want to just, go and give out rice and beans and preach to them for them to receive people, but actually giving them an opportunity.
Yeah.
Something that will just transform their life fully. Talking about baseball, I think it's something so much bigger it's going to be in the future when everything's going to get established, that we can give the opportunity for those kids to get a scholarship.
So you look at Breakthrough. Most of our church started from children, and then our next growth came from college kids. So you think about this. These kids that are growing up playing baseball there will be a part of the church we're fixing to plant eventually. They'll be the leaders. They'll be the ones that have been taught. And, I've been talking to Pastor Slavic a few times this week talking about we need to take a baseball-type mentality that we need to quit trying to always get free agents. And a good baseball program, see the Atlanta Braves, they have a single A, a double A, and a triple A team. That single A team is rookies. They're young guys that's just getting started. Double A means they're getting better, and the triple A means they're about ready for the majors. The point of that is this, is that we don't always need to hire free agents. Sometimes we need a farm team that we're actually raising up leaders for the next generation. As far as you've heard me say many times now that my whole passion is to develop the next generation to make sure the church keeps going on.
Yeah.
And that should be here and overseas.
Yeah.
So, but man, thank you so much for letting me be here today.
Yeah.
Man.
No, thank you for coming out. Thank you for sharing what God been doing through your life, even locally here in Spartanburg, just through a bottle of water.
Yeah. And 23 years later, we're still going at it. So
that's awesome. And just, missions something, like I said, it's been on my heart for so long.
Well, man, you're doing a great job. I mean, you figure we got 2 churches going pretty strong now and fixing to plant the 3rd one in Dominican and seeing what God is doing. Matter of fact, it wouldn't shock me if we got Breakthrough Nation in about 10 different countries here for long.
Well, the Lord spoke to me. It's going to be in all South America. Next year, we're doing Argentina and Chile. I haven't said anything to nobody yet, but Argentina and Chile, that's the next countries the Lord spoke to me about it already.
Awesome.
So we're going to be traveling a lot.
I'm on the ride, man. I'm jumping on the train with you, so here we go.
Yeah. So I just want to, those people that are watching us or going to be watching, missions are really important. I believe just for you just to go out and just to see for yourself what's missions. I want to invite you to come with us if, like I said, we serve in different countries. If you want to do construction, we can do a construction team that we can go. Like Pastor Mike was talking about, we're going to be a lunch in a baseball facility, and plus we need to do some work. We're going to be going there soon. And if you guys want to do construction, and this is something that you know that God called you to do, you guys can reach out to us to the number that's going to be below. Yeah. And they can join us and go with us.
Absolutely.
And we'll be more than happy just for you guys to go. But if you guys have the heart to just go and preach and pray for people.
Or even teams from their churches, from other churches.
Yeah, from other churches. Right now I'm actually going on the 9th next week. And we have people even coming from different states. They just seen the way that God moved, and they have the passion. They reached out, and they're coming to us. So no matter where you're at, we can get you there. The airplane flies everywhere, so we can get you there, and we can serve God together. And for me, it's just a privilege today, just at this first time just having this meeting, is to share a little bit more what we actually, as a church, as a Breakthrough Nation, what we do. And it's not just locally here, but we do go to different countries. And we have churches, if you guys want to look at them, it's BNU Church, that's Uruguay, BNB. So Breakthrough Nation Brazil, Breakthrough Nation Uruguay. And if you guys want to go check it out, those projects where we have, and if you want to support us financially, whatever it is, with prayers, we're open. So God bless you guys, and hope to see you all soon.